The moment I saw 5 HOA inspectors and a lawyer standing at my gate, like they were about to raid my property, I knew this wasn't going to be a normal day. They weren't knocking, they weren't calling, they were just standing there talking among themselves, pointing at my land like they already owned it. And yeah, I'll be honest, my first instinct wasn't to grab paperwork. It was to grab something that made it very clear they weren't welcome. But what happened after that turned into something they definitely didn't expect. Before I get into it, if you enjoy stories like this, make sure you like the video and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily. It really helps the channel grow, and trust me, this one keeps getting crazier the longer it goes. So here's the situation. I live on a piece of land just outside a large HOA-controlled neighborhood. My property isn't part of their HOA. Never has been. That's one of the main reasons I bought it. No monthly fees, no weird rules. No one telling me what color my fence should be or how tall my grass can grow. Just my land. My rules. For the first year or so, everything was peaceful. Quiet mornings, open space, no problems. I kept to myself, and the HOA stayed on their side. But then, things started changing. That HOA began expanding. More houses, more people, more rules, and slowly, they started acting like the land around them was somehow connected to them. Even when it wasn't. At first, it was small stuff. I'd noticed people walking near my fence line. Survey markers showing up where they shouldn't be. A few letters in my mailbox addressed to property owner talking about community standards. I ignored it, because none of it applied to me. Then one day, I got my first official letter. HOA letterhead, stamped, looking all serious. It claimed that my property was visually impacting the neighborhood aesthetic and suggested I needed to make changes to align with community guidelines. I actually laughed when I read it, because again, I wasn't part of their HOA. So I didn't respond. That was mistake number 1. Because when people like that don't get a response, they don't stop. They escalate. Over the next few weeks, the letters kept coming. Stronger language. More demands. Still no legal basis, just pressure. Then came Karen. She showed up one afternoon without warning. Walked right up to my gate like she'd been there 100 times. Clipboard in hand. Sunglasses on. And that look people have when they already think they're in charge. She introduced herself as part of the HOA board and immediately started talking about compliance issues. I stopped her right there and said, "I'm not in your HOA." She smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Yes," she said, "but your property affects the community." That sentence right there told me everything. I told her clearly nothing on my property was up for discussion. No changes, no compliance, nothing. She didn't argue. She just said, "We'll follow up." And then she left. After that, things got quiet again. To quiet. No letters, no visits. And honestly, that should have been my warning. Because people like that don't just give up. They plan. A few days later, I woke up, looked out toward my gate, and saw them, 5 inspectors, and a lawyer, all standing there like they were about to make a move. No call, no notice. Just showed up. That's when my guard went up. Because when that many people show up unannounced, with a lawyer, it's not a conversation anymore. It's pressure. Now let me be clear about something. I didn't go out there looking for trouble, but I also wasn't about to let a group of people walk onto my property like they owned it. So yeah, I made sure I was prepared before I stepped outside. Not to threaten anyone, but to make one thing very clear. This was my property, and they were not coming in without permission. When I walked out, they immediately noticed me. The talking stopped. The pointing stopped. Karen was there to. Of course she was. She stepped forward like she was leading the whole thing and said, "We're here to conduct an inspection." I didn't open the gate. I didn't move closer. I just said, "No, you're not." She looked surprised for a second, then tried to recover. "This is an official matter," she said, gesturing toward the lawyer like that made it legitimate. I shook my head and said, "You don't have access to this property." That's when the lawyer stepped in, started talking about community impact, regulatory concerns, and potential violations. A lot of big words, but no actual authority. So I asked one simple question. "Have a warrant?" Silence. That answer told me everything I needed to know. Because without that, they had nothing. No right to enter. No right to inspect. No right to do anything. Karen tried one more time, saying it would be in my best interest to cooperate. I just stood there and said, "This conversation is over." And I turned around and walked back inside. I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice, because I knew something important. They were trying to intimidate me. And the moment I showed any uncertainty, they pushed harder. So instead, I stayed calm, and I started documenting everything: cameras, footage, dates, times, because I knew this wasn't over. Sure enough, later that day, I got another letter. This one more aggressive than anything before. It claimed I had refused a lawful inspection and warned of serious consequences. That's when I made my move. I contacted a lawyer, showed them everything: the letters, the visit, the attempted inspection. Their response: they have no authority. Exactly what I thought, but hearing it confirmed changed everything. Because now I wasn't just dealing with them, I had legal backing. So we sent a response, formal, direct, stating clearly that my property was not part of the HOA, that their attempts to enter were unauthorized, and that any further harassment would result in legal action. That changed things fast. The letters stopped. The visits stopped. The pressure disappeared. Karen didn't come back. The inspectors didn't show up again. And the HOA, they went quiet. Because once they realized they couldn't push me around, they backed off completely. And the best part, nothing on my property changed. Not a single thing. Because sometimes people rely on fear to get what they want. They show up in numbers. Bring a lawyer. Act official. Hoping you'll just give in. But when you stand your ground and know your rights, they lose that power instantly. If you made it this far, I want to know, what would you have done in that situation? Would you have opened the gate or handled it like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to share this story with someone who'd enjoy it. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you're subscribed to Karen Stories Daily.